advised.
Hey everyone, welcome back to Board Games Unlocked, and Brad and I are doing our top 10 games that no one wants to play, but they should. Now, this is a pure speculation list, like I really have just based off my experience and what I see throughout the community. These are games that people, for one reason or another, have an aversion to play them. And
like there's a negative stigma, like people say, like, I don't think I ever really like that game, but
yeah. You know. But I think all of these games are great, and you should at least give them a shot at one point or another. So, I mean, basically in no particular order, I actually ranked these on games that I kind of did how much I feel that people are trying not to play them.
Agreed.
Okay,
that's exactly how I did it.
Perfect. So, let's go ahead and get started with my honorable mention, which almost made it into, obviously, the top 10, but just got pushed out, and that is Fog of Love. So, Fog of Love was it almost seemed like it was an experiment game that the designer was making, because I'm pretty sure he made the game, and he's just like, all right, I'm done. Like, he made it to kind of get his wife into board gaming and do they call it a romantic comedy style game, which most people would say is that it's a activity. But no, I do believe there's an actual game there. I just recently played this with a friend of mine, and it was fucking hilarious. This game is so much fun. If you are going in, obviously, because it even says in the rulebook, do not make yourself. Like, don't try and use this as like a couples therapy kind of thing. You are supposed to role play as a character. Yeah, it's sometimes a little disjointed with just you're just going back and forth on scenarios, but if you kind of role play it out and lead each conversation to the next one, you got to put in some effort. I think it's a blast. You can play this with anyone. I played it with a friend of mine. I've played it with my fiance, and we just have a great time making these stupid. Like, every relationship ends horribly because we always end up making the worst people, but. Yeah, the aversion I feel is that either the argument is it's an activity, not a game, which I disagree with, or a lot of people I heard were getting into it. They actually get upset with each other, and I'm like, what are you doing?
To me, it'd be the title. The title makes me not want to play it.
The Fog of Love?
Yeah, it just sounds like too...
Yeah, it's because it almost makes you think Fog of War. Like, you don't know what's going on, so it's supposed to be kind of like that. Because you have different scenarios of, like, trouble with in-laws, or they even have a paranormal one where you, like... The Patrick Swayze movie Ghost. Was it called Ghost?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, that's kind of the idea. You actually have to do that. It comes with a clay pie you have to do. Yeah, it's pretty romantic. But yeah, it's amazing because it sold in major distributors. It was like Target and Walmart, and or at least it was on Walmart's website. But if you're looking for a lighthearted, fun, kind of role-playing couples game, this is a perfect one, I think. So that's my number 11.
All right, my number 11 it's an excellent game, but it's hard to get people to play it. Now, it's been my experience with it. And it's Role Player.
Oh, interesting.
And the reason is because it took me a long time to get this game. Mm-hmm. Because when you read the description, it's like, roll dice and build your D&D character or whatever, and it's like there's a game about that, you know. Before, like, until you play it, you get to see what this game is like. But if you're not into role playing, like I didn't play D&D until over the quarantine. That was the first time I played D&D.
It's a good time to play D&D,
right? But it's like I was like, that game just does not sound like. I still cannot get my wife or anybody to play this game because they just don't sound. It just doesn't sound good to them.
Interesting.
Leave them alone, you know. Why would you want to just play a game about creating a character?
Right.
You know?
That's a good point.
And,
so why don't you just make the character?
Right. But then when you play it, and then you throw in the expansion, and it catches people. Once they play it, they understand it's good.
That's
it's
a good
just
point.
Getting them over that hump of being like, this is not just a game about creating a character. There's more to it than that.
Yeah.
So that's why it's my 11. It's just theme alone, just trying to get them into that game. They see that tagline, create your character, and it's like,
that's a good point, because it's like when you think D&D, you're obviously the building the character is a means to an end because you get to play D&D.
Right.
But yeah, if you're just like, hey, do you want to play do you want to play make a character? And
right,
like,
exactly.
Do we get to do anything with them? No.
No, you don't. You just make a character.
Yeah, that's true. That's good. That's a good one. My number 10 is on here because I feel like that a lot of people think this is the weakest of the trilogy. And personally, it's my favorite, although most people would say the art is the worst. I also like the art, and that is Inish. Inish is, yeah. I will say the content art is better than the box art.
Yeah.
But I like the box art because it is, what is it, Celtic? I think it's Celtic art. Yeah. Inish, of course, is in the trilogy of Kemet and Cyclades. And at this point, I know throughout the channel, if you've been a longtime fan, you know that I don't like Kemet. At this point, it's been so long that I've played it, I couldn't even say, I just have no opinion anymore. But when I remember, I didn't really care for that one because it was constant battle, and I'm just like, it just never felt like a point, and Cyclades absolutely hated the fucking turn order and the bidding. But Inish works extremely well because some people might be like, they don't like the King of the Hill because it can go on forever. It's just like, hey, I'm going to win. Oh, you stopped me. Okay, now, and no one else was close to winning. But in my experience playing it, there's always been, it's like I was first, someone else was also close to winning. But there is a art to figuring out when you want to claim that token and be like, I'm going to win. Because you've defended yourself enough, or you put yourself in a position that no one could stop you. And if they do, it was well deserved. But the way that this game actually functions, I like quite a bit because you have the card drafting, which I think there's only like 16 cards or something, and you take one out. And so you're familiar with all the cards, you're drafting, and you know, okay, someone has the card that's going to let them move because I didn't get it. Or do they? Because it could have been the one card that's out. Not only do you have that, you have epic tail cards, which are random and big, cool powers that you play, but you also have territory powers, depending on which areas that you control. But yeah, having the multiple ways to actually win this game, I think there's 3 conditions. You have to meet at least 2 of them before you can claim. I don't mind Inish, the King of the Hill, because I tend to be more of a turtle or kind of player. And it's probably why I don't like Kemet, because I'm like, let me stay in the corner. Yeah. And they're like, no, I'm going to teleport there. I do actually want to try the new Kemet.
Yeah, they've improved it.
That it does look. I watched Tom Vassel's kind of comparison, and I'm like, maybe at the, because I mean, last time I played Kemet was 6 years ago.
12 or 13.
Yeah, I mean, it's been so long since I played it that who knows? It could just be one of those things. I'm just like, no, I still fucking hate it, but I do want to try the new one. But yeah, I think the art of Inish gets a lot of people to not want to try it. Because I guess, yes, definitely out of the 3, it is the most, whoa, like what the fuck is that? But I think the King of the Hill is not for everyone.
Right.
But I really like the mechanisms behind it. And the expansion is a modular expansion, so it actually shortens the length of the game. So that's my number 10, Inish.
All right, my number 10 is a fairly new game, and it's on this list for a couple of reasons. One reason would be the box art isn't exactly grabbing for people.
Okay.
And then the other one is if you've played its predecessor, you probably aren't going to be... It's not going to be enthused to play this other one because of how light the predecessor was. And this is Whistle Mountain.
Oh, interesting. Okay.
Because, like, the box cover is just kind of...
I like the box cover.
It too.
Yeah, it's
but
minimalist. Yeah.
But it's like, I had to fight like hell to get my wife to play this game.
Really? You gotta just start setting them up.
Well, the only reason she played it is because I showed her the back of the box and it showed the airship meeples. Oh. That's the only reason.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't give Kat that option. I'm just like, here's the game that's set up. Yeah. Come on downstairs, and I lock the door, and I'm like, ah!
But and then the one that's probably more likely though is if people have played Whistle Stop, that is an incredibly light game.
True.
And a lot of people did not care for that game.
True.
So they're not going to give this game a shot because they're like, oh, it looks the exact same.
It's Whistle Mountain.
Whistle Mountain. It's
cool.
Like, what the hell?
Yeah.
And it's not anything like that game, just in name only and having the whistle. I mean, the whistle stuff,
That's a good point. Yeah, that's a good one.
So this is one that once they try it, because I didn't even think it sounded good when I saw it, because I knew what Whistle Stop was.
Yeah, I didn't think anything of it.
Until I saw a review that showed it and talked about how good it was, and I was like, oh, that looks interesting.
Yeah.
And then we played it, and it's just like, bam, that's just a badass game.
You talked about it on, I think the top top 10 games of 2020.
Yeah, so
was on that list, and I was like, oh, okay, yeah, I'll give it a shot. And then just was like, oh, this is an engine building game. Okay, I'm down. Yeah.
So so that's why there's a couple of reasons, but I think the main reason is its predecessor giving expectations is
true.
Not meaningful.
Yeah, that's a good one. All right, cool. My number 9 is the people have the aversion because of the theme, because it is a very dark theme, and also because this game probably works at best solo, if not at 2. I would probably say a lot of these kinds of games that people say, you can play with multiple people, but it's best solo. I like them at 2 because you get the shared experience. I wouldn't want to just sit here and experience a story by myself. I can read a book if I want to do that, but that's This War of Mine. So This War of Mine is, if you're not familiar, is a game where you play you and other people control citizens in a war-torn city. It is a very dark, real setting based off of an actual siege that happened in real life. And you experience the hardships that these people would with depression, hunger, wounds and sickness and things like that. You have to manage all that for them, while you also send them out at nighttime to go raid somewhere and get supplies needed to survive throughout the winter. But you read from a book of scripts that tackles anything from citizens being killed in the open street to abortions to anything like that. So it's no wonder that most people view board games as, hey, this should be fun, right. And I feel weird if I'm having a good time for this kind of theme.
Yeah.
So yeah, I get the process, but for me personally, I can delineate. It's like if you can have a good time with themes like this, because it's all about context. Like, you're not like actually go into some war-torn city and be like, you could still have a good time because you should be able to disconnect from that. But some people can't. Therefore, this is not a theme or a game that they are able to actually play. But it's extremely solid, and I believe that if books and movies and shows can show and talk about this kind of stuff, board games are another form of media, so they can too. As long as they touch on it correctly. So that's my number 9, This War of Mine.
I thought we were going to have a direct crossover at number 9, the way you started off describing.
Oh, okay.
Because my number 9 is a dark game.
Okay.
And when you said solo, I thought you were going. And that's Hostage Negotiator.
Oh, okay.
I have this in here. Well, it's the theme. I mean,
yeah.
It's not. You don't sit down and be like, I want to be a hostage negotiator and try to stop, and stop these.
I feel like the mechanics for that one are a little more detached than This War of Mine is.
Oh no, exactly. I'm not trying to say it's better or replaces or whatever.
Right.
I'm just meaning that talking about this game. It took me. This game was out for a long time before, and I'm a solo player, and I still didn't play it because I was like, that's kind of doesn't do. Hostage negotiator. It's like I've watched Speed. I've watched the movies, and it's like, and then you play it, and it's kind of a simplistic solo game. Mm-hmm. You roll dice, doing this and that. But I think the theme is the main reason that this one doesn't get the accolades or approach for people on it. It's just because it's not the kind of theme that would grab people.
Yeah, I would also say that the mechanics with the die rolling and the fact that it's purely solo. I mean, the solo community obviously exists, and that they're clamoring for every game that gets made to have a solo. But I would still say it's a relatively small community. Mm-hmm. Like, even if it's, for me, if someone's like, if I'm looking at a game and it says 1 to 4, I completely ignore the 1.
Right.
I'm like, usually if I find out there's a solo variant, if I'm reading the rulebook, I'm like, oh, there's one. So that is also probably why it was never touched on, and the fact that the only way you really feel like a hostage negotiator is kind of through the card flavor text, more so than mainly you're rolling dice and trying to get the track to move the way you need it to.
Yeah, and I think the main reason it hit this list was just strictly because not knowing, like if you just saw the box on the counter and you were looking at games to buy, you see that one, it's like,
that's true.
That's kind of a darker theme. You know, I'm going to go buy this. I'm going to buy Everdell, but
right,
have nice little animals and forests and stuff on them and everything.
Yeah, I would agree with you there. All right, my number 8 is a game that people I feel are hesitant to play because there is a lot of content to it. You have to almost have some experience in this kind of genre, and the fact that it's real time also will throw people off, and that is Millennium Blades. So Millennium Blades, for all three of those reasons, there's a shit ton of so many cards. I mean, it's essentially a contained like CCG, really, and it feels like a CCG, except obviously you don't buy booster packs. The kind of experience, I would almost say, playing Millennium Blades, you can mentally grasp it if you've played Magic or some other CCG. It just, the concept of the game, because it's literally a game about a collectible card game. So that theme alone is just mind-boggling. You almost wouldn't think it would work. And then you hear real time, and most people, it's like, well, I've never been to a what do they call those? Like where you break open packs and you just build a
booster
deck.
Box.
Yeah, like a pre-release or something like that. I've never been to one of those, so you might get locked up. So there's a lot of things working against Millennium Blades, but if you are at all interested, it's none of those, I believe, actually apply. Like the real-time element, you are given so much time, it doesn't even... First, you don't have to play in real time. You can take turns, which honestly might be better, because it gives people that freedom. But if you really want that feel of like going to a tournament and breaking open and building a deck, you can. But you're given... Even whenever I went to a pre-release set, I didn't feel like I was swamped for time. Like, granted, I hadn't played Magic in years, and I hated it at the time. I'm like, you know what, I'll fucking go. And then I'm just like, oh, okay, yeah, I kind of remember a mill strategy. I'll go for that. Then someone built a better mill deck and knocked me out. Anyway, so then the concept of how many cards there are is, it could be overwhelming, but because you build a market deck, you can just keep that as the market for however long you want to, because you will never see all of them, because that much comes out off the top throughout the phase. But if the game itself is just so rewarding and so pleasing, because you're just trying to get the most ranking points through 3 tournaments, and it's just a blast. I think the aversions that people have, while might be warranted, just don't actually apply once you actually get into the game. So that's my number 8, Millennium Blades.
All right, so my number 8 is going to sound weird on this list, because it was a kind of a go-to gateway game back 10 years ago.
Okay.
But I think it gets overlooked now for being old.
Oh,
people,
okay.
Like the people getting into the hobby and stuff are like, don't want to mess with it because the cover looks boring.
Sure.
They see it as an old game. They want to try something that's done better.
All right.
And this is Carcassonne.
Okay. Yeah, that's actually a good reasoning to put the game on this list. Yeah. I did not take that into consideration.
Because Carcassonne, to me, since I've been gaming for 20 plus years, it's something that when it came out, I was playing it and it's good and everything. But now people are like, they'd rather play Isle of Skye. Now instead, because the games that have been built off of Carcassonne that may be more newer or prettier, more updated. But Carcassonne is still, one of the greatest gateway games. I mean,
still have never played a physical copy. I've only played it on the app years ago as well.
I have the big box version that has just tiles.
Yeah, and all the expansions.
Yeah, most of them. Because there's different boxes. There's 3
the big
different big boxes that have different mixed expansions. Yeah. It's stupid how they done it, but I have enough to get through everything. Yeah. But yeah, it's will always be a great gateway game for that reason.
Sure.
And you can cut out the farmer rule if you want, because that's the most confusing part of playing.
So in the field?
That's where you put the farmers out and knowing how much to score for the farmers out in the middle of the areas.
The app does that for you.
Right, but in person it's a little more confusing. So you can play with that or not. But I think it just gets overlooked a lot now. people just don't play it. You don't see it getting played a whole lot by new gamers or stuff right now. They kind of go to the new stuff.
That's a very good point, because even then, I haven't been gaming nearly as that long. I want to say maybe a year or two before I decided to do my channel, so maybe 6 or 7 years as long as I've been gaming, and I never once thought to go into Carcassonne. Like, even now, it's like I feel like I should own it just because I have the collection.
Right.
I don't even own Ticket to Ride or any of those, because I'm just like, they're not for me. I don't host like game night, like not conventions, but massive game nights. So it's like I don't need to apply to a lot of people. I don't know.
I think it's one of those, like, for this list, I think it's definitely one that you need to try. If
you absolutely.
Like you played the digital version, so you technically have. But it needs to be tried at least once, just to see.
Yes.
It's one of the kind of like everybody should play Dominion. Which is not on my list, but I mean that was kind of a one thing to kind of just get in, just to see kind of where stuff started or whatever.
That's a good point. Yeah, because like you can probably make a list of games that people need to try if they like other games, because it's like it's good to understand where did deck building come from. Play Dominion. And then you'll understand.
Top 10 predecessors.
That's not a bad idea. I don't know if I could make it. That'd be pretty rough for me. But yeah, that's a good one. That's a very good one. My number 7 has a stigma, and it has one stigma for this of why people don't want to play it, because they think it takes 10 hours, and it doesn't. And that is Twilight Imperium.
Yeah.
Now, Twilight Imperium can take 10 hours if you are playing with 8 people, and 9 of them have never played before. I have recently played Twilight Imperium, actually multiple times, because I finally got kind of a group that wants to make time for it, and it's been at 6, and it takes about 5. So. And that was both games were about 5 hours, but it still takes a long time. You can play a 4-hour game in about 3, and that was with new people in my experience as well. However, yes, it is still 3 hours at minimum. If you're playing with 8 people and you all know how to play, it's probably going to take some time, but you set the time to do it. However, I would argue that if you have any interest in an epic space game, like take Axis and Allies as a realistic history, apply that into Twilight Imperium with obviously not as, grounded, if Japan doesn't do this, we fucking lose. Like Twilight is an epic space 4X game. Still in that genre, my opinion, the best one on the market. Especially 4th edition, it's so good. The expansion is amazing as well. Then I would highly recommend that you set the time to do it. Just plan a day. Hey, next month, me and 3 other people. 4-player game of Twilight Imperium is great. I would probably cap it at 6. I personally would try an 8-player game, but 6 is a solid number for it as well. But yeah, you will not get an experience anywhere else. The fact, just the ship or the space combat, the fact that it is point driven, not player elimination driven, secret objectives, technology tree, politics that add laws and voting for people and tons of negotiation. It's truly an epic experience that once you step over that line to sit down and play a 6-hour game, you will want to do it again. Now, if you are like, I don't want to play any game that's longer than an hour, do not obviously play this. But if you don't mind a long game and want to, dip your toe in, you're going to just jump into that pool. So that's my number 7, Twilight Imperium.
All right. My number 7 is another old game. And this one is a combination, kind of like Carcassonne.
Okay.
Boring ass box cover, and it just looks old. And I don't think you've played this game, and you really need to. And it's Alhambra.
No, It's so funny that you said that because when you were talking about Carcassonne, I was running through my mind all the old games, and I'm like, Alhambra's one I need to try. No, I've never.
I need to bring it because it's simple. It doesn't take that long.
No, it looks boring, and I don't know.
It really is fun.
What were all your reasons? Yeah, no, I don't want to try it. You won't try Inish or Millennium Blades.
I've tried Inish.
Shut up. You won't try
Millennium Blades.
You won't play Fog of Love with me.
No, I won't.
Naked. Why won't you do that with me?
But anyway, Alhambra, they have a big box on it stuff.
Yeah.
I don't have that. I just have the base game, which is fine because it doesn't get played a ton, but it's one that I think everybody needs to play because it has where you're building your Alhambra, putting walls around, building your city, and there's things that you buy to go into your city, and you have card money.
Okay.
And if you pay, it has the awesome mechanic that hasn't been used a whole lot, I don't think, where if you pay exact change, because there's where depending on where this card is on the spots, how much its value is.
Okay.
If you pay exact change, then you get to buy another thing because you usually only get to buy one thing, and you can't make change.
Oh,
so like if it costs 3 and you pay 4, you get that. Fine, you don't make change.
Oh, interesting.
But if you pay exact change, then you get another turn to buy. So you can buy, so it's got this economic, and then you put those spots and you're building your city and you're trying to put walls. Whoever has the longest wall, and, it's one of those. It won the Spiel way back in the day.
Oh, right, yeah. It's kind of a staple game as well.
Like 2010.
Yeah,
maybe 2009. I don't know. Whatever. But anyway, this one. Even more so than Carcassonne, because Carcassonne will still get people. Tile laying is something that people will get into. But
and the fact that Carcassonne has, a shit ton of versions of it, but also they have a bunch of expansions that can make it more complex.
Yeah, and Alhambra with the big box, it has tons of modules in it, like that you can add to it and make it more. I haven't gotten into that part yet.
Yeah, I see the big box at the local game stores, and I'm like, man, I really should try those because I also want to find a Ticket to Ride that I'd like because I've played the original Ticket to Ride, and I'm like, yeah, this is okay. I'll never own it, but I want to try it with Markland or the Europe.
Markland,
because I know that they have more kind of like my speed of Ticket to Ride versions. So I need to try these older games.
Yeah, I'll bring Alhambra sometime because it doesn't take that long. I think Kat would like it too.
Probably.
To play, But yeah, Alhambra, it's just another one of those I think gets overlooked because it just looks old, it looks aged, but it holds up more than a lot of like more than Puerto Rico and stuff like that. Like Alhambra,
yeah, I can see that.
Hangs up more than that.
Cool. All right, my number 6. I could have put quite a bit of this designer's games in this slot. I wanted to pick at least one of them just because the designer himself causes the aversion because he's known for making the most complex games. But the game I chose out of all of them is actually my favorite because it also touches on a theme that is controversial because people are stupid, and 2 because people don't want to think about, and that's CO2 Second Chance. So the designer is obviously Vito Lasarda, who makes insanely difficult Euro games. And CO2 Second Chance is about carbon emissions that are causing global warming, and you are attempting to stop that. You are trying to get nations to run on different sources of clean energy, and there's a bunch of different ones: solar, water, recycling, and forestation. I think there's 4, maybe there's 5, but the If you are wanting to try any of his games, if you're like, you know what, fuck it, let's just let's just jump into a really complex game. Let's just try one of his, because he's well renowned for making these games. Which one should we try? I would say CO2. Actually, if you're looking, there's 2 reasons. There's 2 things. If you want to play competitive or cooperative, if you're going to do competitive, then Escape Plan, because it is the lighter of his cooperative games. And it's a pretty unique theme where you're escaping from the city after a heist that you've already done. But my favorite of all of his is CO2, and that is cooperative. So it instead of you trying to retain all the information, you share it as a group, and you work and win together as a group. and it is still incredibly complex, and the game itself is hard, and it's designed to work against you. One, because it's cooperative like every other game, but it is, from my understanding of what I've seen online, his intentional design to sometimes have it to no matter how well you play, you can still lose, because that's the theme. We might already be fucked. Doesn't matter how much. If we went to 100% clean energy right now, immediately overnight, it might already be too late. So that's kind of his agenda, really, for this one.
Wasn't the original version of... Because this is the second one.
Yes.
The original one was semi-cooperative,
Yes, the original... And it does... The Second Chance does have the semi-cooperative, but it's at the back of the rulebook, so they reversed it.
Gotcha.
Yeah, the original one was semi-cooperative, which I would not like this game if it was semi...
that was
and they even have some weird mechanic where you're like, it's cooperative, but you're not allowed to talk about some cards that are in your hand. Yeah, I've just been like, yeah, fuck that. It's fully cooperative here. But I remember first playing this, it was me, my friend Steven, his wife, and Kat, and me and him just popped off, and we're just like, okay, you guys all need, like, we totally alpha game that. Like, okay, I'm gonna do your moves for you. They were like, do you guys just want to play? And we're like, yeah, it's probably for the best. It should just be us. And yeah, so any Velo start of the game, the ones I've played, I played all of them except Kanban. And they're all fantastic, but CO2 would be probably the easier one to go into because it is cooperative. But that's the aversion, his designs and that theme.
That's the reason I haven't played Lissard. I see his name on the box. I'm like, too heavy for me. I'm not gonna touch him. I'm
telling you,
it's a
he has that form, and he actually commented on my Lisboa run through. And he was talking about, some things that we needed to work on, and I was just like, oh yeah, well, we would have done that if we didn't have 10 other things to keep in mind. And he obviously he's the designer, he knows what the fuck he's talking about more than I do. But I'm just like, I've heard he does that. He'll sit there and be like, what's so hard about my games? You just you move once and do one action. It's like, you have to understand 40 things before you get to do that action. Like, you don't get it. You do because you made the game, but apparently, like, not everyone can just.
He's like asleep on his pillow and he has a pencil and paper. And he's like writing
he has a dream journal where he just has this insane wet dream, and he's like, "Oh, okay, I'm gonna make them do all of this before they can grab a rock." Yeah. So CO2, give it a shot if you want to dive into the deep end of heavy Euros.
All right, my number 6 I have on this list because of the stupid name and the box cover's weird.
Is it unfathomable?
So I think a lot of people are but the people are kind of hesitant on it because they think it's a whole other kind of a game unless you pay close attention to the box cover. And this is Australia.
Oh yeah, that is a dumb
because
name,
if you don't
man.
look at the box cover closely and you see Australia, it's like, it's a fucking zombie game.
Yeah.
And there's a big guy with fucking binoculars on the front in this desert looking out. But if you look in the binocular, the reflection of the binoculars, you see fucking Cthulhu out there.
Right.
So then you kind of start getting a better deal. It's still a stupid name why they have Z in there. I mean, there are zombies in the game.
Yeah.
But
I guess there are zombies in Lovecraft lore,
but there's not like a bunch in there. It's not a...
I remember showing that to Kat. I'm like, what would you think that game's about? She's like, I don't know, zombies. I'm like, you would think that, wouldn't you? No, it's Cthulhu, you fucking idiot.
Right.
Why did you not get that?
And that's the thing. I honestly think if they just would have come up with a different name, because people love Cthulhu stuff.
Yeah.
And they didn't make it evident unless you really looked at the cover and pointed that out. And but if you can get somebody in... if you can get the game set up...
It's a Martin Wallace game, isn't it?
Yes, and you can get people sitting there, then it opens up and it's a pretty sweet game, with the railroad building, and then you're buying all these...
It cooperative?
No.
No? Oh, okay.
And you're buying all these army units and war units. No, because you have... you're area controlling this whole deal. And when creatures are coming out, because there's these spots on the board, these hexes where they're sleeping elder gods or old ones, and they will wake up as the time goes along.
Okay.
And they start going towards the closest railroad track or the closest whatever, and start just demolishing your shit as you go through. And you're buying all these like World War II like tanks and artillery and soldiers, and you're sending them out to go attack and fight, and it's all card-based combat.
Okay.
Then stuff like that. So it's not.
I'm still trying to.
Well, it's confusing.
I'm trying to attach to the name.
No, and
I was like, oh, maybe it's because you said old World War, and I'm like, oh, World War Z. Nope, that's still zombies.
Yeah. No, it's the name does not fit, and there's a second expansion or standalone expansion getting ready to come out too, or something, and
I want to try the game, but I really hate that name.
No, I know, and that's my point. That's why it's on this list. Like you need, because it's a good game. I like the game, and it's something you need to try. But the name is just not well thought out.
Yeah,
like if you hate zombie games,
if
you're just done with zombies, it's like you're not going to touch this because it's just like, no, fuck this.
Right.
But if you would have put something, Cthulhu Rising. Or Cthulhu Down Under. Or something like that. That have been like, oh, well, that's cool. It's Cthulhu. I'm going to try it out,
Yeah.
Something, I mean, you could have just done so much different with that.
I wonder if there's anything like a forum with an interview with Martin Wallace, and it's like, so Martin, why are you stupid?
Cthulhu on the Bobby.
Australia, ? And he's like, well, you see, I did a lot of acid before I named it, and that's what you got.
Yeah, and it's kind of cool because it's with the World War II aspect to it.
Sure, yeah.
And because apparently this is like a spiritual successor to I can't think of it right now. It's another game that takes place like in another part of the world.
Okay.
I can't think of it right now.
No idea.
But like when they got defeated there, they went down to Australia and like hibernated or whatever, and then this
the monsters did.
Yeah.
Okay.
And this is like the second, like they're getting ready to start coming back up and everything.
I see.
I can't think of the name of the fucking game right now, but
I'm so confused.
I'll figure it out. But yeah, Australia. It's a you'll know the name of the game when I tell you. But yeah.
All right, my number 5 is a game that has an aversion because it has two reasons, I think. One, the cover is god-awful. Really, any of the designers' game covers are god-awful. And people think that it is like you need a calculator to play the game. And that is... Did you find...
A Steady and Emerald.
Oh, yeah,
This is a spiritual successor to that.
I see.
Because Martin Wallace did that too. Sorry.
Gotcha. Anyway, that's what people the box cover makes it look boring, and it's ugly as hell. And 2, people think you need a calculator for it, and that is Power Grid. Power Grid is, yes, you have to do some math, but no, you do not need a calculator. If you can look at numbers and know what that means, then you can play Power Grid.
Yeah.
This one is a fantastic. It's kind of a slight area control of the board, because you're just connecting power plants to one another that allow you to be a lot more efficient at generating power plants with cards. And the first one to get 15, I think, the one that if you can keep 15 factories running, then you win the game. And what's great about that is you have 4 different types of factories, and it has a really simple kind of supply and demand aspect of, the more supply there is, the less, the cheaper they are to actually buy, and then of course the less there is, then the more expensive they are. And then so you have uranium, you have coal, you have oil, and then you have wind, and wind is free, but they don't power that much. Right. And uranium powers a lot, but it's a lot more expensive. The game it looks old. I don't remember when it came out.
It's not super old.
I don't think it's I don't think it's early 2000s or anything. But it does come with paper money, and you can honestly find some way to upgrade that.
2004.
2004. Oh shit! It was early 2000s. Wow. Yeah, I thought it was 2010s. Yeah, but damn, the game still. It's super solid. And they have a bunch of different maps you can play on. The one I've played on is the Europe one, and then they have the USA, they have Japan, they have, I think, Russia, I think is one of them. They have a bunch of them. And yeah, if you're worried that it's well, I'm not that strong in math, I'm telling you, if you can do basic subtraction, it's really not that hard. I have a $10 bill. I need to buy 2 things of coal that are 4 each. I get $2 back. That's it. That's the max you'll ever have to do. Yeah. And you actually bid. You don't bid. Yeah, you draft. You draft the factories.
Yeah.
So, and we've played a game where Kat literally ended up getting like all the wind energy. So she never paid for anything, but it eventually, she started off doing really well, but it tapered out because she wasn't as keeping as much plants up and running. So Power Grid is a fantastic game that I feel like has a bigger negative stigma than it needs to.
This one would have been. You
didn't put it on your list?
Well, I didn't think about it.
Oh, okay.
This one would have been on my list.
Gotcha.
Most likely, or been really close to making it.
This was one of the games that when I was like, oh, let's do this list, I was like, Power Grid is for sure on here.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's my number 5.
Awesome. All right, my number 5 is a standalone expansion to a game, and the reason it's on this list is because the original version of this game, people have such a negative reaction to. And this is the DC deck building game Rebirth.
Okay.
People don't want to touch this game because DC deck building game is not very good. Mm-hmm. It's just a pile, and it doesn't make sense. It's not thematic. It is. It's based on theme and does not mean anything.
Right.
So that's why a lot of people, I don't think, give Rebirth a shake.
Sure.
Rebirth brings in a campaign, and it's fully cooperative.
Okay.
With envelopes, it's got this whole legacy part to it. It's reusable legacy, obviously.
Okay.
You pick a character, and you actually have spatial awareness. You have like a little standee with your character that you actually get to move around the city.
Neat.
And do stuff. Bad guys will be at different places, and you play the game. Mm-hmm. But when you defeat the bad guys, unlike in the original, when they go into your deck, they just go away. And you're just trying to complete these objectives.
I beat you up.
Right. This is the way DC deck building games should have been from the get-go, I think.
Yeah.
So, for that reason alone, that's why people would have an aversion to this, because DC deck building game just has such a negative connotation out there from reviewers and stuff like that. They see this, and it doesn't stand out that it's a whole different game. And the cover still looks the same. It looks.
Oh, does it?
Well, the covers look. I mean, they're all unique covers.
Oh, okay.
But it's like it doesn't. It's the same. It's the same size box, same size everything. So it just looks like an expansion to that game instead of it being its own unique deal.
Yeah.
Like to me, they should have had a whole different style of box.
Sure.
Instead of that rectangular box, maybe made it something a little different to make it just look different.
Yeah. Hey, this is a different game, yeah.
Right, but that's the only reason. I mean, it's so much. I won't play with any of the other versions. Rebirth is so much better.
All right, yeah, that's a good one. My number 4 is one of my favorite games, but it's dated. Like, I mean, I'll be honest, it does show its age. It came out 2007. I just looked up the date. But I think it is one of the purest forms of a fantasy game out there, and that is Talisman. Talisman, obviously, the biggest thing that everyone says, it's Monopoly, and it has roll to move. Yeah. Would you just put DC deck builder? Tell me about how your Superman deck. When does he use batarangs? I don't want to hear. I don't hear about theme.
Rebirth fixed that. It fixes that.
Did it? I thought. Yeah, that's what I thought.
Just don't put the bad guys in there.
Anyway, yeah. So Talisman has roll to move. Well, your Shadows of Brimstone still has roll to move.
It does. So with Talisman,
you have the 3 layers, and the outside of the board it's Monopoly. You go around back and forth until and you just gather a bunch of like items and followers. But obviously there's 3 layers, and your whole goal is to try and get into the middle to kill off everyone. But I truly believe that if you are wanting a pure high fantasy game, Talisman is exactly that. There is so much expansions. The side, the corner expansions that add like the city, dungeon, woodlands, and highlands break that Monopoly kind of stigma. Because yes, now you can actually go around and you can teleport to other places. And yeah, I mean, it feels like a very light RPG with you fighting monsters to level up, to get permanent attack and strength, and then you get really cool items. Like there's like almost infinite replayability just because of how many cards are in this game. And then with the different alternative endings where it's either revealed or hidden, that it's a race to see who will meet the revealed objective and get to the middle first, or get to the middle and see what the hidden objective is. It's just one game that everyone I've played this with always ends up loving it. And because, you can get just kind of immersed in all the cool fantasy stuff. The places that get permanently placed on the map. The Reaper, the werewolf that's chasing you around. It's just kind of like... It harkens back to Defenders of the Realm, that old school fantasy before it got all convoluted and complex with kind of fantasy today. So yeah, it's just a pure form of that I very much enjoy and think a lot of people would enjoy, because you can easily play this game with a family or friends and have a great time. I cannot tell you how many times I played this while I was in college,
right.
Like just drinking and having a great time. Just, how you had all this stuff and now you're a toad. Haha, sucks. It's like, race, get all the shit. Or you can fight each other to try and steal items from one another. It's a blast. I really, really like it. So that's my number 4.
All right. My number 4 is a game that the theme is why people would not want to play this.
Okay.
Because this game has the theme of farming, the deck building game.
Okay.
And it's Agricola.
Okay. Yeah. That's why I stayed away from it for so long.
Right. Or what was it? There's another nickname for it. Starving Farm or something like that. Is it?
No idea.
I've heard it described in other ways, but Misery Farm.
Oh,
that's what people call it. Yeah, but so really, you sit there and it's like, hey, you want to play this? And it's like, what's it about? You're running a farm. It's
yeah,
like, that sounds kind of boring.
Right.
And it's once you get down and start playing the game, it's a lot funner. I mean, because you're doing stuff, and they call it Misery Farm because if you don't get enough food, and you're not feeding your family, things happen.
Yeah, they just start dying.
And it's a brutal game. Like if you don't do your stuff right and everything, but it's good, and it was a good precursor to games like Caverna and Feast for Odin. But I think just getting over that hump of theme with this one, saying, about a game about farming, that's just not something
true.
that enthuses people. Now maybe people in places that farming isn't.
Yeah, like probably.
Hey, you want to play a game about farming and you live in New York City?
Sure,
that sounds interesting.
Yeah, that's
but when you
true.
live in fucking Kansas,
yeah, and you're just like I already farm
right over there. There's a farm right there and there and there.
Yeah, it's like, no, I'm kind of over it. Yeah.
So that was the reason. I mean, it's one that you definitely need to try to see.
Yep, it's right there.
Yeah. Yep.
All right, my number 3 might be on your list. I don't know, but it was another game that I thought of whenever making this list immediately. It is because most people consider this game to be ugly. I think I actually like the art. I think it fits, but it doesn't. It also doesn't help that the components of the game actually do not emphasize this game in any way, and that is Ethnos. So you haven't played Ethnos, have you? That's why. Okay. So Ethnos is a set collection area control game, and a lot of people, for some reason, I think at this point it's become kind of a meme. It's just like, oh, everyone says Ethnos art is bad, so therefore it's bad. It's the same thing when people say pineapple on pizza is gross. It's like, no, the internet just told you that it's gross, so you just think it's gross. Like, come up with your own opinions. Like, Ethnos, the art it's classical fantasy art. It looks like old school Magic art. It looks like old school D&D art, and I personally like that. Of course, this is all subjective, but get over the art, and then you get into a really unique set collection game of different fantasy races that have special abilities depending on what set you're collecting. And what you're doing is you're trying to granted the plastic pieces do not help in any way, but they're just stackable. It's meant to be more for ease of use than actual thematic reasoning. But you're trying to control different areas that have variable points on them, depending on who has the most, second most, and so on. because those tokens are shuffled, and it's like, oh, this region now has 10 points, and then 4 and 2, and then others might have 4 points and 0. But you're trying to control those. But what's really cool is you're collecting sets of cards, and whenever you play them as a group. But once you play cards in front of you, you discard your whole hand down, and now people can start taking from that. So if you don't want to take from what's available, you can draw from the top. But I really like that, because you might be holding on to multiple sets, and you're like, I really want this card, but I have to play the set. That means I'm going to have to get rid of it. And then you might do that and hope that no one wants it, and it comes back to you, and you're like, I got it back. It's extremely solid in its mechanisms. The art, there's the art on the board it's not really there, but the art on the cards I think looks good. The box cover looks good, and if you can just open the lid and move the lid away, then the game is extremely solid. So that's my number 3, Ethnos.
All right, my number 3 has already been said.
Ooh. This War of Mine?
Yes.
Awesome.
This War of Mine, and strictly because of like what you said. I mean, it's depressing theme. And then if you even if you knew, if you've played the app, or the video game version of this, that's still not going to want to make you play the board game, because it's like, my God.
No, I believe, because I have played both, and I really feel like you are more invested when you're playing the board game. Mm-hmm. The video game, it feels like Sims. You just kind of click and move them around, and you're not... Yeah, they say stuff, but it's like... You're not the one physically moving them. You're not the one... you are deciding... I don't know. It's weird. There's a disconnect with me when playing the game. Same with Frostpunk. Yeah, Frostpunk.
Yeah.
That's going to be a board game coming out, and I was playing the video game, and I'm like, yeah, this is a pretty good game, but I like the hardships that they were all experiencing, and you make decisions in the video game, and it's just like I mid-max when I'm playing the video game, but the board game I'm more kind of like I'm physically I don't know, it's just weird.
Yeah, so this one, I mean, just theme alone. Like I'd never be able to get anybody to play this. This would be a solo game only.
Yeah, unless someone else is a gamer. Like you're not bringing like, hey mom, come on over and play this War of Mine. Yeah, if someone else has to be like, I've only been able to play this with another friend who is of the exact same mindset as me. Yeah, that's a good one. My number 2 is, oh man, this has to be on your list. I'd be surprised. Has a massive stigma against it of just having way too many options to actually play, or to actually use, and that's Feast for Odin. So Feast for Odin has 60 different worker placement spots, and that one is that's what everyone says. As soon as someone brings up Feast for Odin, they immediately follow up with, yes, I know it has a lot of play. Like, yeah, it's like, oh, is that the one that has like 60 different worker placement spots? Yes, but it still is at its core a polyomino game. And while there are technically 60 different spots, they are grouped into categories, and the abilities are just increasing. The better abilities of the same core idea. An example I've given is if you want to gain wood, you place 1 worker to get a wood. Okay, the next one is 2 workers to gain 3 wood. That's just kind of how it works. I have played this with Kat, who was surprised because they were like, her and my friend Devin are like, oh man, like that's they feel like 60 really, like come on, like what the fuck is wrong with that designer? And after her and I played it, she was like, I'm surprised. It was not actually that hard to grasp. So, like, once I wish people would explain these games better instead of being like, yep, 60 different spots, haha. It almost feels like some people want to just have the game to themselves.
Yeah.
They're like, no, you don't get to play it with me. It's like, don't you want to play games with people? Maybe not you don't. So, I think... Yes, I mean, I'm not saying that these are gateway games at all. Like, I'm not saying, oh yeah, Feast for Odin is actually an incredibly simple game. It's not. However, the 60 worker placement spots just, they hurt it when it's said that way. This game can be taught. I believe any game can be taught. You just have to maybe approach it a different way by not scaring people
right.
with what options they might have. Because it doesn't mean they have to do all of them. Like, hey, there's 60. That just means that is how many there are available. You can do 4 of them and do fine. Like, but it is a granddaddy of Uwe Rosenberg's games. So, like you mentioned, try Agricola, Caverna. I would still probably say try those before going to Feast for. Actually, he does Indian Summer and all them, right? That is him.
Yep.
Probably try those if you want to understand the polyomino aspect a little bit better before jumping into Feast for Odin. But same reason I said with like CO2 and Vita Lasarda. If you just play these games in a casual setting, then there shouldn't be any pressure. So that's all I'm saying. That's my number 2, Feast for Odin.
Okay, my number 2, I fought between 2 games being in this spot.
Okay.
One of them's not on the list because they both were going to take the same reasoning for being this spot. One of these 2 games that I fought for, it was their barrier of entry. The intimidating barrier of entry. The one that did not make the list was Too Many Bones.
Oh, okay.
And I did that because the art being a cutesy, more people would be willing to try that, I think.
Okay.
And with the dice and all that stuff, the one I chose to put on the list is Mage Knight.
Interesting.
Because people, like, when you start talking, and as soon as people hear Mage Knight, it's like, oh shit, that's like the learning curve of that game, and that is a super intense solo experience. So, and they say, once you learn the rules, and once you play through it and you get it down, then you can start going. And that's the same thing they say about Too Many Bones. Is like once you kind of get over that hump of learning the game, then you can start going on that.
I would say I agree with your decision. I would say Too Many Bones is easier to learn. The core game, not your hero. Mm-hmm. The rest of it,
right?
I think it's easier.
I was just meaning everything as a whole.
Sure,
you know, and that's why ultimately I put it off because plus it's cooperative, which I know Mage Knight's cooperative too, but Mage Knight's also better solo.
Right.
Too Many Bones being cooperative. If you have a new person, you can bring them in. You can kind of help them.
You can give them you can give them an easier hero.
Right.
Yeah.
Like I keep thinking about like let's say my wife.
Mm-hmm.
I could get her probably to sit down and play Too Many Bones because it's more cutesy.
Right.
More. She would never touch
Mage Knight
if I wanted to play 2 with her. And just like you had said something about earlier with Twilight Imperium, the stigma of the long games. You know, Mage Knight is just the intimidating learning curve.
Right.
You know, that was why I forever did not want to touch it. You know, because everybody was like, damn, that's like a hard, intense game to get everything down on. And it is.
Yeah.
But once you sit down and give it the time, it's not as bad, which is probably what would happen with me with Lacerda games. If I actually started sitting down there messing with them, got over that hump.
I mean, I can absolutely tell you, like I said, every game can be taught. My friend Brett, who's been on the channel quite a few times now, he's a good guy, I promise, but one of his favorite games is Splendor. But that's I know, right? But that's his speed. Those are the games that he likes. I've taught him Anachrony. He did the Lisboa run through with me, and he's not sitting there like, I got negative 40 points. It's like, yeah, he does well. If you just play it in a casual setting and help people, like, oh well, you know what's confusing about this? Well, I'm just not. I don't get why I'm doing this to do that. It's like, oh well, let me help you. But maybe some people just are like, here's the rules, let's fucking compete, and I'm like. Yeah, you don't play games with those people.
Right. But yeah, Mage Knight, that's why I put on there, just that barrier of entry being the main reason.
That is fair. That's fair. I didn't even really think of Too Many Bones or even Cloudspire. Because I also tried to think of what I've personally seen in the community, and I've never seen really anyone say, I don't want to not play Too Many Bones, or I don't want to try those. Like, so...
And those are reasons why I didn't...
No, that's fair,
picking it, just,
Do you know what my number 1 game is? It is not a crossover, but this one I personally have experienced. No one wants to play this with me.
Gosh, I have no idea. I mean, because there's so many such a wide breadth of...
I still own it. I will give you the general direction of where I am looking at it. It is, funny enough, directly under my number 2 that I just said.
I don't even remember. Oh, Feudum.
It is. No one wants to play Feudum with me. Yep, that Feudum is my number 1. And To be honest, this was as soon as I was like, oh, let's do this top 10. I was like, number one Feudum, because it's not that I don't see anyone I don't see anyone talking about this game, and I don't honestly, I don't know why. Weirdly enough, I don't see anyone talking about this game, and two, this one is just more of a deep cut because no one likes it's so good. I love this game. I refuse to get rid of it. I'll force people to play it with me. It's
weird how
it is.
Nobody talks about it at all.
I know, right? I was just saying, I didn't even think about that till literally just now. It's never brought up anywhere. But I will say this game is too thematic for its own good. You know how some people write rule books and instead of calling things dice, they call them gippies or whatever they want to fucking say for their theme. And I always hate that because it's like, look, just let me learn your game. Not only does that Feudum do that for its rule book, it also does it for its mechanics. Like the white cube is called saltpeter, and like you have serfs and you have feudums and you have garrisons, and then like. Not only do you so you have to learn essentially the terminology of what they're calling everything to fit. I mean, yes, it is incredibly thematic for that time period, but then you have to understand like how the 6 different guilds push and pull from one another, and who can do the push action, who can do the pull action. This is one of those things that this game, the designer, and I'm drawing a blank on his name, he had no one there to rein him in.
Yeah.
And
Mark Swanson.
That's it. And someone told me at Gen Con a couple years ago that he was working on another game, and it's like he needs like a wife or a significant other to be like, hey, maybe you should stop while you're ahead, because I'm not kidding. I love that. Is like, I would say that game, because of everything that he incorporated in terms of terminology, even Vito Lasarda doesn't do that with this stuff. You can thematically, like, yes, Beatles games are thematic, and you understand why moving this worker from here to here is thematically makes sense or something. Like, but it's expressed in a gamery way. That one is, I don't get it, but yeah, it's so thematically grounded that once you do get it, it is it's an awesome experience. But it's also something like, if you don't want to put in the time or the effort to do that, you will not have a good time with it.
My aversion to that game started with the art.
The art, yeah, that's another good point. I didn't even think. Yeah, the art looks like it's some whimsical fantasy, psychedelic game where you're like, oh, there's monsters and stuff. No, this game is not fantasy. I mean, there are monsters in it, but they are intentionally used for combat units. But once you get it, this game sings. Like, everything really just thematically clicks and it all works out. But that might be one of the most complex games I've ever played and tried to teach.
It has a weight of 4.58 out of 5.
Out of 5,
BGG.
yeah.
That's pretty solid.
It is extremely high. And they have expansions for it. It's insane. Like, because you also have to manage, food for the workers that you have out. It's the overall theme. If that game looked like it was actually in like the Dark Ages, that would fit the theme. That would fit the game a lot more than that psychedelic fantasy look. So that didn't do it any justice either. Yeah. So yeah, what's the rate on BG? Like a high 7, right?
I gotta pull it right here. It is 7.7.
Yeah, 7. I mean that's a solid score. But yeah, I do not see anything about it.
And it's 597 overall.
Oh, okay. I was
as
like,
far
what? As far as the overall ranking.
Yeah.
So there's love out there for it, but guarantee you it's the same people who, like me, who are the only ones praising it. So yeah, that is my number one games that no one wants to play, but they should.
All right. So my number one, I'm putting on this list, I'm throwing myself under the bus because I'm one of the chief people that I haven't played this game.
Okay.
Which makes so that's why it's my number one. I have an aversion to this game that I want to overcome and I want to play it. Okay, so that's and it's always the first thing that comes to my mind when we say it. And it's a crossover. And you've talked it up to me many times.
Millennium Blades?
No, because I actually really want to try that one. That
okay. The only one I can think of is Twilight Imperium?
Yes.
Oh, wow. Okay.
I haven't ever played it, and the first thing that as soon as somebody brings up that game, it's like, fuck, that's a long game. I don't want to play that game, you know?
Mm-hmm.
And I need to. It's like, that's why it's here.
Yeah.
Because I know I need to play that game.
I personally don't want to play it, and I should.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, right. And so I want to play this game, so
Yeah.
I'm like, kind of tossing myself under the bus on that
Sure.
one. You know, because that is probably when you had this list of games that people don't want to play. You know, the game I hear most on all the podcasts I listen to and stuff, people dread Twilight Imperium's length of time.
Yeah.
And everything. And that's just something that, you know,
Right.
I'm guilty of. But I know that that's one that I want to play because I like that.
Yeah.
I like sci-fi stuff.
Mm-hmm.
I just need to find the time to sit down and do it.
Yeah, it's the mechanic. Because I remember there was a guy. He talks to me through Messenger, and he convinced like his wife and son to play it, and he mentioned that his wife was shocked at how easy it was actually learned to play, because it's like it's you have like the major historical games, Axis and Allies, where you do both boards and stuff, and it's like, yeah, that game is hard to learn, and it's also incredibly long. Twilight Imperium is long, but it's easy to learn. So yeah, it's awesome. Yeah, I mean, I can always invite you over to the next scheduled day that I got.
When we get something up, but yeah, because I know Chad always keeps trying to get people to play and everything too, so it's just kind of like...
It's great. It's a great experience. All right, so those were our top 10 games that no one wants to play, but they should. Let us know what you think of these games and what games you think people should play in the comments below. Other than that, like, comment, share, and subscribe, and have a wonderful whatever time of day it is for you. Hey everyone, thank you for watching, and I really hope that you enjoyed the video. If you would like to see more of my content, go ahead and click that subscribe button and the bell to be notified whenever I upload any new content. If you feel like supporting the channel, you can go ahead and click that Patreon link to be taken to my Patreon, and any help is truly appreciated. Other than that, stick around for any other run-throughs or reviews or cool top 10s or whatever I feel like putting on. Other than that, like, comment, share, and subscribe, and have a wonderful whatever time of day it is for you.